700 million years ago, Earth froze from pole to equator, and almost nothing survived it. Not a regional ice age, not a cold snap, a complete planetary shutdown that lasted millions of years. The terrifying part is the mechanism that caused it is still active today. And once it starts, no government, no technology, no collective human effort can reverse it. The retirement you are saving for, the places you still want to see, every future you are quietly building assumes this planet stays warm enough to exist on. Scientists call this event Snowball Earth, and the geological record doesn't leave much room for debate about what happened. Ice sheets stretched from the poles all the way down to the tropical latitudes, covering nearly every ocean and landmass on the planet. Temperatures at the equator dropped to what we now consider Antarctic winter, and they stayed there for millions of years. The oceans didn't just freeze at the surface, they froze kilometers deep in some regions. Life didn't thrive. Through this period, it barely clung on in tiny pockets near volcanic vents and thin equatorial ice. What finally ended it wasn't resilience or adaptation. It was a slow volcanic buildup of carbon dioxide that had nowhere left to go. Ice does something that almost no other surface on Earth does. It reflects sunlight straight back into space. Dark ocean water absorbs around 90% of the solar energy that hits it. Fresh white ice reflects up to 85% of that same energy away. So the moment ice starts spreading, the planet receives less heat, which makes more ice form, which reflects even more heat away. Each step in that cycle makes the next step faster and more certain. Scientists call this the ice albedo feedback, and it is one of the most ruthless mechanisms in all of planetary science. There is no natural brake built into the system, no governor that slows it down as conditions get more extreme. The colder it gets, the more ice forms, and the more ice forms, the colder it gets. Once enough surface area tips into white, the feedback doesn't slow. It accelerates. The planet is no longer cooling from the outside. It's cooling itself from within its own physics. The trigger wouldn't arrive as a single catastrophe. It would look at first like a run of bad decades. A major volcanic event pumps sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, dimming sunlight across the northern hemisphere for years at a time. Crops fail, oceans cool, and the first permanent ice sheets begin pushing south from the Arctic. That new ice reflects more sunlight back into space, and the planet loses heat faster than it can recover. A quieter sun, cycling through one of its periodic low output phases, compounds the problem at exactly the wrong moment. Ocean circulation slows, pulling less warm water toward the poles, and the cold deepens. None of these events alone would doom us, but stacked together in the right sequence, they cross a threshold that the climate system cannot walk back from. The ice doesn't need a dramatic entrance. It just needs enough time and enough help to become permanent. The first winter that doesn't fully end feels like a fluke, a strange season you'll tell your grandchildren about. By year 2, the summers are shorter, the harvests are thinner, and the news is full of worried scientists. Farmers in Canada and Russia watch their growing seasons shrink by weeks, then by months, then almost entirely. Fuel prices spike, food prices follow, and governments start making promises they quietly know they can't keep. By year 5, the tropics are still warm, but nothing like they were, and the temperate world is in open crisis. Refugee columns are moving south, away from cities that now spend 8 months under snow. The power grids in Northern Europe and North America are failing under loads they were never designed to carry. By year 10, the ice hasn't reached your city yet, but you can feel it. Coming the way you feel a storm before the clouds arrive. Ice sheets don't sprint, but they don't need to, because time is entirely on their side. In the first decades, glaciers thicken quietly at the poles, adding meters of ice every single year. By century 2, the Laurentide, sheet pushes south across Canada like a slow, indifferent wall of white. The Great Lakes vanish under 2 kilometers of ice before anyone alive can remember what open water looked like there. Europe folds next, Scandinavia buried first, then Britain, then the northern plains of France and Germany gone beneath the grinding advance. The atmosphere responds by drying out because cold air holds almost no moisture, and the deserts of the mid-latitudes freeze solid rather than thaw. Mountain ranges that once interrupted the ice now act as ramps, funneling glacial flow faster into the valleys. Below, by Century 5, the ice front sits at roughly the latitude of present-day Madrid, Cairo, and Los Angeles. The planet's reflectivity has doubled, bouncing sunlight back into space before it can warm anything at all. Life doesn't surrender quietly, even when the whole planet turns against it. In the deepest ocean trenches, hydrothermal vents pump heat and minerals up from the Earth's mantle continuously. Microbial mats cluster around those vents like survivors huddled around the last fire on Earth. The ice above them could be 2 kilometers thick, and none of it would matter down there. At the equator, where the ice sheet runs thinnest, liquid meltwater pools might persist in shallow, sun-warmed pockets near the surface. Photosynthetic algae could cling to the underside of translucent ice, squeezing energy from whatever dim light filters through. Beneath the ice of a frozen ocean, a liquid layer likely remains, kept fluid by the planet's own internal heat. That subsurface ocean becomes the last refuge, a sealed world cut off from the sky entirely. Evolution doesn't need sunlight or open air to keep running its experiments in the dark. The ice doesn't just melt quietly when the freeze finally breaks, it detonates. Life didn't walk out of the ice into a gentle spring morning. It stumbled into a furnace, into an atmosphere with nowhere to put it. No rain, no oceans, no rocks to absorb it, so the gas just stacked up and waited. By the time the greenhouse effect finally overpowered the ice, the concentration was hundreds of times what we breathe today. Temperatures didn't ease upward. They swung from deep freeze to something close to a boiling desert in a geological heartbeat. The ice sheets collapsed so fast that sea levels lurched upward in violent, unstoppable pulses. Acid rain hammered the oceans as all the trapped carbon dioxide dissolved into the meltwater at once. The creatures that survived the freeze now faced a world swinging wildly to the opposite extreme. Life didn't walk out of the ice into a gentle spring morning. It stumbled into a furnace. The thaw was not a rescue. It was just a different kind of catastrophe. Every city, every farm, every power grid rests on one quiet assumption, that the climate will stay roughly like this. We built our entire world inside a narrow band of warmth that we did nothing to create. The ice doesn't need our permission to return, and it has done this before without any warning we could have used. Snowball Earth isn't a thought experiment designed to frighten us into better recycling habits. It's a reminder that the planet has a reset button, and civilization is not the hand on that button. We are passengers who got very comfortable and started calling the vehicle our own. The fragility isn't in our technology or our politics, it's in the ground beneath both of them. Knowing this doesn't mean we surrender to it, but it does mean we stop mistaking our luck for our strength.